I was talking to someone tonight and they said, as I've gotten older, what I do in the gym is I do some light weights. I'll do, 20 reps of each thing. I do a bunch of aerobic exercise, blah, blah, blah. And I said, that's fantastic. It's about mobility. It's about blood flow. It's about keeping yourself loose. It's about doing a dynamic warm-up, stretching at the end, just moving around, really getting blood flow to your entire body. That's a great thing in itself, right? But if you're going to add one thing to that, maybe consider postural exercises. And we've talked about many postural exercises. But people with low back pain, a lot of people, there are many possible causes, from muscle strains and sprained ligaments to herniated discs and all sorts of things, and facet syndrome, all sorts of stuff. But a commonly overlooked thing, and this plays into both, another thing we should do to exercise and a common cause of low back pain that should be addressed, is why we're mentioning it here, is core strength. We always talk about. Okay, so you definitely want to do core exercises. But a commonly overlooked thing to add to that exercise routine, when we talk about low back pain, is tight hip flexors, iliopsoas, that pull us like this. And we typically, common sense wise, we realize we want to counter what types of movements every day that we do. Right? Every day we do this. Right? Or we're sitting. These are contracted. Sitting like that. So we want to stand up tall, work posterior chain stuff, do extension exercises. We've talked about that. Right? So when it comes to what could be producing pain, in terms of your core, even if you're working out your core a lot and you feel very stable and strong and you're wondering, well, if it's holding me upright well, if it's contributing to better posture, why am I still having some of this low back pain? It could be a lot of things. And you're not overweight. It could be a lot of things still. But maybe tight iliopsoas. Look at the iliopsoas. And that's comprised of the psoas major, right? And the iliacus. The iliacus originates in the upper 2/3 of the iliac fossa. It inserts. So coming here on the inside upper portion of the pelvis and it's inserting down onto the inside or medial or more towards the midline portion, try to speak in, plain terms, of the femur, which is right here, right? The lesser trochanter. And so it's kind of coming like this, okay? Faced off here, coming like that. So if you shorten it, it's going to flex the hip, right? The other muscle that makes up the iliopsoas, the psoas major, originates from the transverse processes and vertebral bodies of T12 to L5, and it inserts on that same lesser trochanter. So that one comes from your spine. Again, the transverse processes, they're the outer parts of the vertebra, right? And then the vertebral bodies are the big parts in the front, okay? So it attaches from those to here. The point is, it can be overly tight, especially if you're somebody that does a lot of weighted core exercises, which are fantastic, but need to be balanced out on the back end. And, I always preach at When Wellness how important weighted core is, and it absolutely is, you guys. But also after, counterbalance that with stretching and warming it up properly before. So how would I warm up for core day, right? Well, if I'm looking at the iliopsoas, I would like to stretch it but not stretch it, right? So what the hell does that mean? Well, we don't want a static stretch before we work out, right? Because it increases our risk for injury and decreases performance. Meaning, I wouldn't sit here and just hold my leg up and pull it really hard. I wouldn't do this and just lean and stretch the hell out of it before I'm going to do core where I need it to contract, right? I need these to contract. I need these to contract. Especially if I'm doing leg raises, things of that nature, right? And so what you could do is dynamic. You can come forward and then back quick. Forward, back quick. Forward, back quick. So when you're coming forward, don't make such an effort to swing it forward. Kind of let it pendulum forward and then more effort back. Now, if you're doing that and you're holding the wall, right? I just have a wall right here. It'd be a weird angle if I try to find a wall to hold. You're holding the wall and doing that. Now, that's a great thing to do to warm up for sprinting, for a lot of leg work, but also for weighted core day. Because that is going to help to loosen the psoas just enough that you still have contractile force. You don't risk injury as much. It's a little bit loose, right? And at least looser, right? But still has tight contractile force, and that's great. After you do core, you can go on the ground and you can do the cobra, where you come up like this and push. You can even bend your knees and get the quad stretch in there too, sartorius, things of that, rectus femoris, things of that nature. But you can also come and simply stand like this and stretch and take your arms up. My sweater's a little short for this, but you can take your arms up, reach back, reach up high. I'll put a hole in the ceiling and come forward, and you should really feel it through this hip. You can come down on one knee, and you can come forward like this, and you can try to inch forward, inch forward, inch forward, come up, lean up like that. You'll feel a stretch through here. But a very important thing, because we said it's actually attaching to your low back, right? The psoas major is, and the psoas minor too, I believe, originating, I think it's like T12 and L1. But, those are the major, or that is, the psoas major and the iliacus, making up the iliopsoas, the major hip flexor muscle, the major muscle responsible for hip flexion. So if you're doing a lot of hip flexion, and especially in weighted core day, albeit core is an absolutely fantastic thing, definitely try that, and look to making sure your psoas are nice and loose through your everyday life. It might help to keep this portion of you slightly more upright, still keep a strong core, tight low back, shoulders back, chest up, head back like this, ear over the shoulder. And that's the kind of posture you want. And that's the kind of thing you want to do before and after your core workout, baby. So get it done, my friends. It's well worth it. And even if you're not doing a core workout, why don't you try that warm-up before you start the day? All right? Try those leg swings. I think they're good for pretty much everybody. Depending if, granted, you don't have any specific condition that would compromise your hip or something of that nature, SI joint, right? Something like that. So that's what we got. Let's see the question. Oh my God. Christine, Victoria, do I have any tips for that? If your ass is eating your bathing suit, that's a hungry ass. That sounds more like a blessing. I think a lot of people would be happy with that, but in all seriousness, if you're looking to tone up the glutes, right, then what you can do is, what are the major actions of the glute max, the glute med, and the glute min? All the glute muscles. Well, the glute max is extension of the hip, so coming back, right? It would be opposite, actually, the iliopsoas, so pretty cool we're talking about that here. Because you'd also like to work out something that's a counter mover to loosen up this thing. So if this is tight, we like to work this out and stretch this, right? Because this moves it the other way, right? So extending the hip. Also, externally rotating the hip, coming out like that. So if you're in an externally rotated stance and you were to say, go like this and press forward, you should feel a lot of squeeze right here, okay? So that's, you look at another movement when it comes to the glute med and glute min, it would be hip abduction, so coming out this way, sideways. So those are really the three major movements that all three of those muscles will contribute to, and the abduction is more the glute med and glute min, right? But you can do all those with a cable. You can put your foot in the cable, and you can turn the foot out a little, come back, up, out, back, up, out. You can kick, back, up, out, back, up, out. You could go on all fours and you could kick back like that. You can do squats where you're externally rotated, not externally rotated like this. And you contract the glutes here and come down and squat, right? Things of that nature. So if you're looking at tone up, glute bridges are great, right? And glute bridge is actually one worth noting here. I don't want to lay on the ground with the sweater. It could. But, with the glute bridge, you're on your back and you're coming up like that, right? So your feet are planted on the ground, your back's on the ground, and you're coming up. So that's stretching the psoas and it's working the glutes. So that's a great one. Great question. Great one. Applicable to what we're talking about here today. Victoria. So funny. Bill, what's up? Abdulio. Nick Cab, Meg. Victoria, I just saw the other one, so that's pretty funny. Dude, bro. You guys are having fun. Stephanie Marie B. Malcolm, what's up? Hippolito. Veronica. What's up, gorgeous lady? I love you. This one's for you. Mano Salva. Eduard, Kevin Clark, y'all. Jojo, Darren, Starkey, Brian, first one of the day again. Thank you for the support, my friend. I hope you had an absolutely awesome day. And hey, try some weighted core. Do yourself a favor. Try some weighted core and try some of the this warm up, the leg swings, and try the stretches after. I guarantee you'll feel good. So, love you. Babe. Hippolito, what's up? You guys have fantastic rest of your night. That's all we got for you, folks. We'll see you tomorrow, baby. Not sure where, not sure when, but we'll see you then. Have a great night. Thanks a lot, and happy when wellness.